Hi, I'm Diane Macedo. Today on ABC News Live, another mass shooting in America. At least 6 people are dead after a gunman opened fire at a Walmart in Virginia. Why authorities are investigating it as a possible case of workplace violence, as we hear from employees who survived the shooting. New details in the Colorado shooting investigation. The chilling Facebook post from the suspect's mother hours before the massacre. This with the suspect now out of the hospital and due in court. 55 million people are on the move for what's expected to be the busiest Thanksgiving in years. How the airlines are preparing and what to do if you run into any issues at the airport. But we begin with the second mass shooting in America in just 3 days. An investigation is underway after at least 6 people were killed at a Walmart in Virginia. Several others are being treated at a local hospital. Our Jay O'Brien is on the scene in Chesapeake, Virginia with the latest.
Responded to ship 402, 1521 Sam Circle at the Walmart for a gunshot wound.
A mass shooting at this Chesapeake, Virginia Walmart.
This is Super Walmart Greenbrier. We heard several shots inside probably 20 minutes ago.
6 people plus the shooter killed after witnesses say a store manager went into a break room and opened fire just as employees were gathering for their shift.
Basically, as soon as my team lead started the meeting, my manager came around the corner, stood in the doorway of the break room, and just opened fire and just started swinging his arm from left to right. It looked like there was no direct target. He was just shooting any and everybody that he could.
Officials saying because the store is so large, many people may have been hiding, prompting fear that victims may not have been immediately located.
It's sad, we're a couple days before the Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, anytime that's a sad, just a bad time all around, it's just for everybody involved, especially the victims. Like, this is horrible.
Walmart releasing a statement saying, "We are shocked at this tragic event at our Chesapeake, Virginia store. We're praying for those impacted, the community, and our associates."
And local, state, and federal law enforcement are all on scene here. Earlier this morning, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin saying in a statement that he's supporting the city of Chesapeake, adding, "Heinous acts of violence have no place in our communities." Diane?
Jay O'Brien, thank you. Meanwhile, the suspect in the mass shooting at an LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs is out of the hospital. He's due in court today as we learn new details about the investigation. Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman has the latest.
ABC News obtaining this chilling Facebook post from Laurel Vopel, the mother of the Colorado Springs massacre suspect, seemingly concerned about her son's whereabouts in the hours before the shooting, saying, "My son is missing. He took my phone and my debit card. We had plans and were so excited." She ends by saying her son told her to get ready to have the best night ever. The 22-year-old suspect now facing preliminary charges for the first-degree murder of Ashley Paugh, Daniel Aston, Raymond Green Vance, Kelly Loving, and Derek Rump. Ring camera footage from 2021 shows the suspect surrendering to police after allegedly making a bomb threat against their own mother.
There was a SWAT team, bomb squad, the whole 9 yards.
At the time, the mother was renting a room in Leslie Bowman's home.
Would you say that those were some significant warning signs?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that case later dismissed and the suspect's record sealed after the family refused to press charges. That enabled the suspect to legally purchase that AR-style rifle.
Weren't the allegations against the suspect significant enough that red flag warnings or something could have been done, some sort of intervention to have stopped the massacre at Club Q?
The answer that I have to give, if you ask me a direct question about a specific incident, is that no such record or case exists.
And Diane, a think tank that monitors hate speech online just put out new findings last night. They discovered that hate speech against the LGBTQ community has soared by 613% just since this shooting. They're saying it's also being parroted by local politicians here in Colorado, elsewhere in the country, and influencers on social media. And they're saying this is the kind of rhetoric that can spur additional violence. Diane.
All right, Matt Gutman, thank you. And let's bring in senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky, along with ABC News contributor and former NYPD chief of detectives Robert Boyce, with more on both of these investigations. Aaron, let's start with Virginia. What do investigators know at this point?
They know what the police have said was an incident of apparent workplace violence unfolded just after 10 o'clock in the evening, right as the overnight shift was beginning. Eyewitnesses said it was a manager. Police have only said it was a store employee who came armed with a pistol, went into the break room, and opened fire seemingly at random, killing 6 people before turning the gun on himself. Why? They don't know, and they are still searching for a motive. And that means they're going to be going through the suspect's history. They're going to see if there were any disputes with particular individuals at work, or whether there was something going on outside of work that he decided to resolve at Walmart when he came to work that night.
Bob, ABC News has heard directly from 2 employees who were there. They said that this was a manager. That's how they're identifying the shooter here. Law enforcement has already told ABC News they are looking into this as a potential case of workplace violence, as Aaron just mentioned. So how does that change the investigation compared to if this were thought to be a random attack or an otherwise targeted attack?
Sure, Diane, this is a closed-end investigation, meaning the purpose no longer a threat, and there's no prosecution looming. So now we just have to answer questions. What happened? How did this occur? Did anybody else know about it? We owe that to the families of the victims to give them the whole truth. So there's no big rush here, but you have to look at the social media, see if he was on that, see what's going on in this person's life. Did anybody pick up on these traits, why he did that? Where did he get the gun? Did he have any mental health? These are all things that have to be uncovered. But again, there was no prosecution looming like there is in Colorado. That's a different story, where they're still acquiring evidence to go forward. So 2 different types of investigation, both important.
So, Aaron, let's talk about that a little bit, because the gunman in this Virginia Walmart case is dead, police say, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In Colorado, though, the suspect there is now out of the hospital and in police custody. So how does that change these investigations?
As Chief Boyce says, in Virginia, you don't have to worry about a prosecution, and so it's more collecting evidence and trying to help the victims understand what happened. Here in Colorado, over the next 2 years, potentially, investigators are going to be going through the painstaking scene, interviewing witnesses, all with a goal of putting the suspect on trial. And for that, they need to understand motive. They need to understand the suspect's social media history, if there is any. They need to understand how he acquired the weapon. We've been told at ABC News it was a legal purchase despite an earlier arrest. All of that needs to be focused on preparing the evidence seamlessly for trial so that prosecutors can ultimately win a conviction and deliver what our system considers justice for the people who were harmed.
And Robert, in a case like Virginia, where the attacker is dead, how much of the investigation focuses on trying to figure out what happened in an attempt to see if there's a way to prevent it from happening again?
Well, you saw that Matt interviewed him, and there was the red flag laws were not employed. He wouldn't even talk about the prosecutor in Colorado. In Virginia, you're going to see something a whole lot different. We won't have to worry about this individual. He's already passed, so we can really do a vetting on his entire life and find out what brought him to this point. Again, the big misses here are the red flag laws around the country. It's important. Virginia has had its issues with, as well as Colorado, with mass shootings. We have to do better here.
So, Aaron, what are you watching for as both of these investigations now unfold?
I'm struck by something Chief Boyce just said. Colorado, Virginia. Virginia just had another mass shooting at UVA. And so I think probably the same evidence collection team doing the work in Chesapeake was probably the same team doing the work from the FBI at UVA. And I think that evidence collection is important. We'll want to know about the weapons. We'll want to know about anything in the suspect's history that could have triggered these cases, and whether anybody knew something that in the suspect's pasts, because oftentimes, how often do we talk about that somebody knew something and perhaps it could have been a different outcome?
And already in the case of Colorado, we're seeing that Facebook post from the suspect's mother saying she was concerned that he was missing, that he had her phone. So we'll
that he was bullied potentially, yeah.
I know you're watching both of these investigations for us. We appreciate it. Thank you both. And a record number of people are heading to the airport today. AAA predicts nearly 55 million people will travel at least 50 miles for Thanksgiving, similar to pre-pandemic levels. Transportation correspondent Gio Benitez is at O'Hare Airport in Chicago with the latest. Hi, Gio.
You can see how packed it is at O'Hare this morning. Without a doubt, this is the busiest travel season in almost 3 years. Take a look at what we are seeing at major airports across the country right now. From right here in Chicago, of course, to New York, to Minneapolis, incredibly busy. About 5 million people traveling by air, despite those ticket prices soaring 43% higher than last year. Now, here in Chicago, we were able to go inside the United Airlines Command Center, where they are tracking every flight. So far, things are looking pretty smooth across the country because there's no severe weather affecting major airports. But if that changes, the people in this room go into overdrive and they start rerouting planes. We also spoke to their social media team. So many people, of course, reach out for help on social media if they have any issues. But they tell us if you do have any problems, don't do that. The best thing to do is actually grab your phone, download the airline app in advance before your flight, and then use that to communicate with the airline. You can message people there, but you could also go ahead and change your flight right there. That is the fastest way to get help, especially on a day this busy, Diane.
All right, Gio Benitez, thank you. And today's also expected to be the busiest travel day of the week for those hitting the roads. We're getting a live look at an Atlanta highway already packed with cars. Our DeMarco Morgan is in Los Angeles with more on what drivers can expect today. Hi, DeMarco.
We know LA traffic can be a mess even when it's not a holiday, so imagine the nightmare that comes along with driving on the busiest day of the season. AAA saying more than 3.9 million travelers here in Southern California alone will get to their destination by car. KABC's helicopter reporter Scott Wright hovered above the 405. That's one of the busiest interstates in Southern California. Nationwide, close to 49 million people expected to hit the road. And not even record high gas prices are keeping people out of their vehicles. Take a listen to this. As of today, the average price of gas in the Los Angeles area is around $5.21 a gallon. Nationwide, the average standing at just about $3.61 a gallon. That's down 13 cents within the past week, but up more than 20 cents from a year ago. So the best advice, if you haven't gotten out the door, please do so. Diane, back to you.
All right, DeMarco, good advice. Thank you. And now to the new details. We're learning about the death of an American tourist in Mexico. The FBI has opened an investigation into Shanquella Robinson's mysterious death. Matt Rivers is in Mexico City with the latest.
A family looking for answers surrounding the death of North Carolina native Shanquella Robinson at a luxury resort during a vacation in Mexico. The FBI now investigating as a bombshell new development has emerged. Mexican authorities say the American tourist may have been alive and that a medical professional on site may have been working on the 25-year-old for 3 hours before police arrived on the scene. According to local Spanish language reports, one of the guests staying at the resort called for help around 2 p.m. upon arriving, informing medical professionals that she had, quote, drunk a lot of alcohol. A doctor reportedly said she was stable but dehydrated, suggesting she be treated at a hospital. The guests, however, insisted she stay in the villa. Law enforcement authorities not called until later, eventually declaring Robinson deceased just after 6 p.m. Those reports differing from an autopsy obtained by ABC News, listing that medical professionals arrived at the villa around 3 p.m., declaring her dead within 15 minutes, citing the Charlotte native died from a severe spinal cord injury and a dislocated neck.
We got our first dead body.
A new video surfacing showing Shanquella resting in a hammock at some point before the trip turned deadly.
Buddy. I heard some stuff, a dead body. And, that just made me wonder, that was they playing all the time.
This on the heels of the now viral video, Too Violent to Show, of a female roommate appearing to assault Shanquella.
They just stood there and watched and didn't even try to stop it or break it up. She wasn't even fighting back. They attacked her.
Over the weekend, the community gathering to lay the once vibrant businesswoman to rest. Justice can't come soon enough for the Robinson family.
They let me know that my daughter's being murdered wasn't going to go in vain, that somebody's going to be prosecuted.
And even with all of this new evidence, authorities here in Mexico, the Attorney General's office, the police, they still have not announced any suspects in this case, meaning some sort of formal conclusion in this case still seems pretty far away. Diane?
All right, Matt Rivers, thank you. Coming up, millions of Americans are heading to family gatherings for Thanksgiving, but the holidays can be difficult for those struggling with their mental health. We'll talk with a clinical psychologist about why that is and how to cope after this. Welcome back. The holidays are often seen as a time of happiness and celebration, but for some, this time of year is a tough one. According to the American Psychological Association, 38% of people surveyed say they have extra stress during the holidays. Clinical psychologist Jeff Gardere joins me live now for more on this. Jeff, thanks for being here. Why are the holidays so stressful for some?
Because of the expectations that are placed on everyone. They feel that they have to be at every gathering, that they have to buy expensive gifts, that they have to be on their best behavior, which is a good thing to be. But we also see a lot of issues around seasonal affective disorder, where people just are really feeling down. And so therefore, Diane, they're forcing themselves to do things that they may not necessarily have the strength emotionally to do.
So what are some triggers that can cause stress for people around the holidays, and can you avoid them?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest triggers is actually family, and we want to be around family, but it's really fascinating, isn't it, that when we are with people who we love, who we've grown up with, we tend to fall back into those original roles when we were kids. But we also see the lack of time that we have to get ourselves together, the financial pressures that we have that are part of this new reality that we're in, and of course, the family gatherings where if you're hosting them, you're expected to do so many things. Those things are real triggers for bringing out a lot of holiday stress.
Now, some of those things are difficult to avoid. So are there things you can do to cope?
Yeah, I think that you have to really do some self-talk before you leave your home, making sure that you are not going to get into any kind of conversations that are divisive, instead looking for commonalities. Important to surround yourself with people who really do appreciate you. And whatever you do, it's also important to try to help people who really need you, people who are maybe seniors or who may be homeless or unsheltered. That really gets you out of your own head and really into the importance of caring for one another's, which is what this holiday season is really all about.
And the holidays can be especially hard if you've lost a loved one, especially recently. So how can you seek connection and make that grief a little bit easier around the holidays rather than feel like it's exaggerated?
Especially right with COVID, and we've lost so many people, it's important, I think, to attend services and vigils and celebrations for the people who are no longer with us, and more than anything, celebrate their memories and what they meant to us in our lives. And I think that is one of the best things that one can do sitting around the table, because it's not about regrets, it's not about sorrow, but it's more about positivity, and that is always a welcome thing around the table.
All right, Jeff Gardere, we appreciate your analysis as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, Black Friday is just 2 days away, but early deals are already drawing in customers. How inflation could impact the biggest shopping day of the year after this. Welcome back. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are around the corner, which means it's a great time to get some of the biggest deals of the year. Shopify, a platform that helps businesses build their online presence, reports over 47 million shoppers bought from their independent brands over Thanksgiving weekend last year. Shopify President Harley Finkelstein joins me now with what shoppers need to know going into this holiday shopping season. Harley, Shopify found that businesses and shoppers are planning to be more considered, conscious, and connected this year. Where does that data come from, and what does that really mean? What does it tell you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. You know, this is obviously a very big moment for all businesses and all merchants around the world. But, you know, one of the things that we learned was that based on our surveys, 80% of U.S. businesses that we surveyed said they're planning for a big Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales weekend. You mentioned sort of this sort of intentional shopping. That's one of the major trends that we are seeing from consumers, that consumers are really keeping an eye for really good deals from their favorite brands this year. 83% of U.S. shoppers said they will compare prices to see what the best discounts are before making a purchase. So one of the things I think we're going to see is that on the intentionality side, these consumers are going to look for great deals from great brands as opposed to just look for bargain basement deals from brands they don't really care about. But the second piece of it also is that this idea of conscious consumerism, where consumers are really voting with their wallets to buy from brands that they really love, that they want to support, whose values remind them of themselves. And you know, for us on Shopify, we see brands like Alo Yoga and Viore and Glossier and Bombas and Gymshark as being some of the most favorite brands by consumers. And we think they're going to have a really great Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend.
Now, inflation is a major concern for so many right now. How do you think that will affect Black Friday shopping?
One of the things that sort of the second piece in terms of the trends, the first being intentionality, the second thing that we are seeing is this idea of connecting directly with your favorite brands. And part of that is making sure that you as a brand are able to sell online, but also offline across social media, across places like YouTube and Google. And that really is what Shopify does. We make it really easy for these merchants, millions of merchants across the world to sell anywhere where the consumers are. But the second piece of it is the idea of direct to consumer. I think in the past, you know, we've talked about direct to consumer as being a bit of a fad or a trend in retail. But actually, that's no longer the case. We're seeing that as being steady state, that now direct to consumer is really the best way for brands and consumers to interact and to transact together. What that means is because there are fewer intermediaries, certainly on the brands that are on Shopify, it means that they can afford to do discounting that, say, a big box department store might not be able to. And so, you know, I think consumer sentiment index just came out. I have the new number here. It's 56.8 points versus 54.9 points. I mean, consumer sentiment index is higher than what we expected. So I do think you're going to see a really healthy shopping season. And also, it's no longer just a weekend. Previously, it's sort of been between, you know, Thursday night and Monday morning, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. What we're seeing now is rather than being a weekend, it's now more of a season.
So are there any particular items that consumers seem focused on right now?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that we are seeing. Nearly 55 million Americans will be traveling this holiday weekend, according to AAA. And so we're seeing travel-related purchases are on the rise. Cosmetics and toiletry bags are up like 87%. Duffel bag and luggage accessories are up 25%. We're also seeing an electronic space. We've seen video game console sales increase over 350%. And then probably the last one, which is not too surprising, is furniture. As a result of the pandemic, people are obviously moving to a lot of new locations and furnishing their homes. In the last few weeks alone, we've seen consumer spend on furniture rise, but 22% increase in furniture sets and a 98% increase in carts and islands. So we're seeing a lot more of that sort of home furnishings being purchased right now as well.
All right, Shopify President Harley Finkelstein, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Diane Macedo. Do stay with us as ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis. And as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday, we want to take a moment to honor and hear from our troops overseas.
I am Mr. Sergeant Belkis Charney. I am a 5th Corps soldier from Panama. I am currently at Camp Kosciuszko, Poland. I would like to send a happy Thanksgiving to my husband, Leon, my son, Alex, Xavier, and my beautiful daughter, Sophia. Also to my sister-in-law, Jennifer, her husband, JC, and her 2 beautiful daughters, Alexis and Alisa. Happy Thanksgiving. Miss you guys and love you.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.